The letter was signed by them all, and what was in the driveway was a brand new Mustang with blue and red interior. Hey fellas, I was listening to one of your Not For Radio pods where you mentioned old or forgotten stuff that's now cool or valuable. Well, this reminded me of a great yarn my cousin told me a few years back. My cousin, let's call him Jason, a few years ago, he went to see one of his mates in Onehunga, suburb of Auckland. When he knocked on the door, his mate's father answered and said that Stuart, which is his mate, wasn't home yet and asked if Jason wanted to come in for a freshing tin of amber goodness. Let's call his mate Stuart's father Keith to protect his identity. So my cousin Jason and Keith were chatting about various stuff until it got to what Keith used to do for a crust way back in the 70s. Back in 72, Led Zeppelin were touring New Zealand and Australia, and Keith was one of the sound engineers for NZ. Keith explained to Jason that once the gear was set up at Western Springs, the band turned up, performed their standard sound check, everything went better than expected, and Keith now found himself chatting to the band. The band now had nothing to do because it all went so smoothly and was well ahead of the plan. This is where it gets a little interesting. Keith had an idea and offered to drive them around Auckland in his old Holden HQ. They accepted. So Keith grabbed a couple of crates of piss and drove them to PR and back, stopping at various places around Auckland while dusting some big bots in the process. Remembering, this was the 70s. The band had a great time, got pissed up, and Keith dropped them back to their hotel in the early hours of the morning. Robert Plant offered to pay cash for Keith's time, gas, beers, everything, but Keith said he was just doing the Kiwi thing and that he would not accept a thing. The band thanked him profusely, and then they retired for the evening, and the show went without a hitch. After the gig, the band gave Keith a huge hug and thanked him again. So a few months later, Keith was in Onehunga in his house watching the old black and white telly, heard a knock on the door. He opened the door, and there was a delivery guy stood there with a clipboard. The delivery guy didn't have a package, but told Keith to come out to the driveway. The delivery guy passed Keith a letter as he stepped into the driveway. The letter said something along the lines of, "Hey Keith, we really appreciated you taking time out of your day and taking us around Auckland, feeding and watering us. We had such a great time that we wanted to get you something to remember us by. Take care. Lots of love, Led Zepp." The letter was signed by them all, and what was in the driveway was a brand new Mustang with blue and red interior. Fast forward to more recently, Keith said to Jason, "I'll show you something," and led him to his garage. He saw a car cover covering a car. Keith pulled off the cover, and it was the car that the boys from Led Zeppelin gave him. A stunned Jason, Keith opened the door. Jason looked inside. It was mint and has only done around 25 miles on the speedo. 25, 00025, not 25,000. You see, Keith got this car serviced privately every year, and it would start it monthly and drive it to the letterbox occasionally to give it a run. Keith still has a letter as well. Imagine calling Ford America and showing them photos, the chassis number with 25 miles on the clock, and the letter to go with it. Naked ass. Not sure what the car would be worth now, but I reckon a lot. Cheers, Adam, Auckland, NZ.
And all in all, an eventful day.
Wicked.